by raising lower tiers to the higher level, holding to the long-standing union principle of equal pay for equal work.
So we're going to open up the floor for debate. Let's start in Region 4. 1 for and 1 against. Yellow card. Pink shirt.
It's a salmon shirt.
Oh, I'm sorry. I stand corrected. Salmon shirt.
Steve Collins, 750. Cater, Region 4, under Bob McElroy and Brad Dutcher. Support this. This has got something done. 2005, I went in first tier, second tier, the higher rate category. Cost $2.38 an hour. And with that, since 2005, the first tier hasn't got a raise until we got parity with us. The second tier, I reached parity this year in 2022 with people who haven't had a raise since 2005. So with that, now we're both on the bottom tier. How's the top tier whenever they just equal with the bottom tier? It's crazy. I think it's just a great idea. I support it.
Is there anyone in Region 4 to speak against?
Good afternoon, brothers and sisters. My name is Jeff Spindler. I'm from local Savannah, Kansas City. Although I don't agree with tiers, I rise to oppose this issue and will refer to the special bargaining convention.
Thank you. Let's move back to Region 9A. Anyone to speak for?
Hi everyone, my name is Tamar Samir from local 7902 in New York City, representing the faculty at New School University. I rise to speak against tiers. I am a member of Unite All Workers for Democracy, UAWD, and we have made ending tiers our top priority here and in Big 3 bargaining next year. I rise in solidarity with my UAW siblings and to represent my 2,000 co-workers at the New School University. You might think that professors have it easy, but actually the typical professor makes about $20,000 a year. Maybe if they take on 3 jobs, they might make $50,000. This is in New York City with one of the highest costs of living in this country. Sometimes professors struggle to choose between health care and food. Some adjuncts sleep out of their car, but no one knows. People have to take on additional jobs outside the university to make ends meet. Our union contract divides the workers about 50-50 into 2 classes. The higher class is faculty like me who have job security, health benefits, and stable retirement benefits, and who can only be terminated for cause. The second class is the other 50% who are in an extremely precarious, insecure positions. They work semester to semester, 3 months at a time, with no job security, never knowing if they will be hired again. This insecurity continues until they've worked for at least 5.5 years. This means 5.5 years of probation, a minimum of 5.5 years, but sometimes it's 10 years of job insecurity, extreme anxiety over pay, making rent, paying bills, and taking care of their families. In the times when they're not teaching, they often get kicked off health insurance. When the COVID-19 pandemic began, these faculty were the hardest hit. Many of them had little or no work for 2 years and no health insurance during a global pandemic. The employer uses the division in our contract to create a continuous cycle of hiring and firing, Very few new hires ever make it to the higher level. What makes this worse is that many of the people that the university hires are already marginalized. The more recently hired workers are more likely to be women and people of color, and they are stuck in a lower level. The university hires them to flaunt its diversity and inclusion policies, but then they terminate these workers after 5 years before they reach a secure status. This is a social justice issue and a racial justice issue. In fact, labor justice and racial justice are not separate. They are one and the same. Tears are racist and they are anti-worker. My unit is currently bargaining our next union contract and trying to eliminate the existing inequality in the contract. This division has been entrenched in my contract for over 15 years. So on behalf of my 2,000 coworkers, I strongly oppose tiers. No UAW contract should have tiers. Our solidarity is built on mutual support and not hierarchy. I want my coworkers to have the same rights and same benefits that I have, the same job security. I also rise in solidarity with every auto worker and every other UAW member who has inequality written into the text of their contract and which they are fighting against. I have listened to so many people discuss how tiers are destructive in their workplace, just as equality is destructive in my workplace.
Okay, you need to wrap up. Your time is up. Thank you. Thank you.
So, no tiers, no concessions.
Okay, thank you. Do we have anyone in Region 9A to speak against?
Hello, brothers and sisters. My name is Urban Barrios from Local 712, Region 9A, under the great leadership of Beverly Brinkman. And I just wanted to talk because I feel like I'm gonna oppose this because I feel like it should be dealt with at the Special Bargaining Committee. Plus, this will tie the hands of the bargaining committee. That's why I oppose this. Thank you. I want to say thank you to Ray Curry. We got you.
Thank you. Moving on to Region 9. Anyone to speak for? Anyone to speak?
Good afternoon, Bob Reynolds, Local 897, retiree delegate, elected. Under the leadership of steady and soon to be retiring Jeff Binns and my president, Pat Brack. I just want to talk about this issue so everybody truly understands it. I am against tiers. When I started in the 70s, and when my father started in the 50s, we did have a tier system. It was 90 days. You had 90 days to see how that employee went forward, and after 90 days, that employee, who was me, made the same as the guy next to me or the woman next to me. It was so important. But now, if you're going to put this in the Constitution, it has a lot of effect on a lot of our relationships with companies that we're trying to organize and people we're trying to organize. If they see this there's a good possibility to say, look, we're not going to have a two-tier system in their company that we're organizing, since we're talking about it. I do all the orientation at our plant. I give them 1 hour of Bob Reynolds. I talk about the day my dad got paid by cash in the 50s. And I run through things, and that's what retirees do. Yes, we mentor, but we also remember those days because we have to build on those days. So this truly is a very important issue. We really need to think about this, because you're trying not to tie a bargaining person's hand, which I have been, but you're also trying to send a message out to the companies that we negotiate constantly. We're telling those people, we do not want tiers. Don't bring it to the table. Don't go out there and tell us this. We really need to look at that 90-day hiring period. That's negotiable. That's something people can live with. It might take, but that's where they have to do their homework and management and say, is that a good employee or is that a bad employee? That's their responsibility. The union represents those people because we are their legal representations. We can represent new hires. We can't stop them from being fired a lot of times because of the 90 days, because if they mess up, they're gone. So I think you ought to really think about this clearly, of what you want to send a message out to the companies we don't have yet, but also the companies we do. Thank you very much.
Anyone in Region 9 to speak against? White placard, black shirt, mic 6.
Good afternoon, brothers and sisters. My name is Mike Shook. I'm the Vice President for Local 677, District 9, under Jeff Biggs as Director and Mark Farrell as Assistant Director. I want to be clear, I'm very reluctant to speak against this, but I for a very long time been against tiers. I do not think they should be discussed in new contracts, but the way we address them in the existing contracts needs to be calculated. If we put a piece of language like this in our Constitution, I feel some contracts in some locals may be up against a company who uses it against them. If they know we have to bargain for this, they may push us to give up things that we don't want to give up just to get that. So for that reason alone, I would caution against approving it the way it's written, as definitive as it is. I think there needs to be a little more discretion on behalf of the committees bargaining for each of those contracts. So thank you.
Okay, moving on to Region 8. Anyone to speak for the resolution? Black hat, blue shirt, white placard.
Casey Marjorie from Local 862. Commissioner. I'm for this resolution. I've got some concerns about it, however. But I am for the resolution. Currently at our plant, the majority of the population is under the tier system. More than not. A lot of those people I've seen speak, and I'm curious how many of them have participated in the tier system, or if they got the luxury of the 90-day full top-out pension, healthcare when they leave that I don't have. Currently, our employers start out and they go through a temporary phase of 2 years before they hit an 8-year progressionary phase. So we're talking about a 10-year progression over a 4-year contract, and it's asinine. We've got to get everybody the same page. Like numerous of your speakers have been talking about, well, we're still playing the divide and conquer game. So I don't see how we can impose something of this nature. I don't know about the bargaining committee, but where have they been the last 10 years while this has been going on anyway?
Okay, speaking against the resolution, black shirt, blue folder, mic 3.
Brothers and sisters, I'm Paul Herron from UAW, number 1921, out of New Orleans, Louisiana, under Region 8, Mitchell Smith, Director, Tim Smith, Assistant Director, and Mike Green, International Rep. Jeff Hall. I have been a member since 1982. I have been a a bargaining unit member since 2008, and I'm charged Lockheed Martin, Jacobs Technology, Syncom Space Services. I am against tier wages, but I'm against putting it in the Constitution. I'm sorry. It needs to stay with the bargaining committee. That's where we were able to get rid of it, because when we met together as a bargaining committee, pulled our resources together, and became one. Okay, that's where it needs to be. We can't force companies to look at our Constitution, because if we start forcing them to look at our constitutions, we could make companies become non-union. They recognize bargaining committees, the bargaining strength. They don't recognize our constitutions at the bargaining table. I've never been able to go there and lay my constitution down and say, give me this because my constitution says that. They don't care. They want to know what your bargaining power is, what your bargaining committee says, and that's where this nation stands. Thank you.
Okay, we're moving into Region 1A. Anyone to speak in favor? Yellow placard.
Hi, my name is Dave Kirby, Vice President of Local 372, Region 1A, under the leadership of Laura Dickerson and Assistant Director Dave Page. I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't stand up here and support this resolution for my members in my plan. We need to stop the division in the plants and the division in the workforce. Equal pay for equal work. Thank you.
Okay, anyone to speak against in Region 1A? Yellow placard, blue shirt, Mike Sullivan.
Good afternoon, brothers and sisters. My name is Paul Vernieri, elected delegate out of Local 245, R&D Center for Ford Motor Company. I'm also the shop chairman. I stand in opposed to this resolution for a couple of reasons. There isn't anyone in this hall, or any member I've ever met, that believes in two tiers. Not a single one. This is my fourth constitutional convention that my members elected me to attend. Next year, we have a special bargaining convention. That's where we set our bargaining objectives. We don't go to the Constitution. The Constitution is the rules of our UAW, how we hold ourselves and our officers up to a certain standard. Why don't we have COLA as one of our resolutions? Why don't we have retiree increase in pensions? Why don't we have health care as one of them? I can tell you why. It's done at the bargaining table, not amongst ourselves here. Thank you.
Anyone to speak in favor of the resolution?
Hello, my name is Batavian Wicks. I'm out of Local 869, out of Region 1. I stand in support of abolishing the tier out of our Constitution. To me, tier says discrimination. Tier says division. And I don't see any point of why we would have that in our Constitution. Our foundation is equality. Our foundation is we, one man, one vote, equal pay for equal work. The question is not what we have in our Constitution, it's what we live by our Constitution. Now, many won't like what I have to say. I love what but I'm gonna say it anyway. How did we get here? The last time I remember, we were dying. We weren't on level ground. We were sinking. We were in bankruptcy. So all of these companies that are here, I don't know if you know my pain, but there was not gonna be a crisis. This is why we went to a tier in our Constitution. That's the first time I ever heard of tier. We were bankrupt. Now, after we accepted that, we stayed afloat, we got better, we got stronger, we got a law from the government. We pulled ourselves up, as you say, by the bootstraps. But what happened after that? And when I say this, I'm not just saying you up front, but I'm saying your predecessors. You got complacent. After the tears, after all the concessions, after everything else, you slowed down, if not stalled, and became complacent. This is why we have tears now in our in our Constitution. The bigger problem is everybody else that is bargaining or politicking for a new position in this one man, one vote. I caution you, keep your integrity. Because we talk about corruption as if it is acceptable. We talk about indictments as if that is the way to do business. I am appalled by the lack of urgency that we have in our UAW and in our unions. Most people don't understand. How did we get here? We got unions by bare knuckle brawls. And I don't see that fire anymore. I don't see the urgency in the middle of America fighting for an equal wage. We don't have a one-family job system in America no more. Most people have to get married so they can have somebody else to bring income into the home so you can live comfortably. We have to recognize above everything else, I charge everybody here, if you have a desire to lead in this in this UAW, if you have a desire to make it better, then it can't be about you. You can't have any selfish intentions because you don't work for yourself. You work for the men and the women of the UAW and the people that come behind. So when you say tear to me, tear is all of those negative connotations of division. And that's what we're not about. I always say, and last but not least, what I have on my shirt, it's not UAW. Most people didn't read it. It is you are warriors. So I'm asking everybody in the UAW up front, out here, make our union better. But you can't be afraid to do it. And if you're afraid, call the police.
Good afternoon, UAW Local 7. My name is Linda Jackson. I come out of Region 1 under the dynamic direction of James Harris, Assistant Director Jason Craig, local leadership Eric Fleming. I am the recording secretary at Local 7, and I was at one time considered a Tier 2. Out of everybody that has spoke on this issue, I don't recall anybody saying that they was hired after the bankruptcy of the Big Three. And that's why I felt compelled. I had a lot of back and forth with people about whether I should even speak on this or not. So I want to say one thing to be clear to everybody in here and anybody reporting. I am against tears, right? I want that to be clear. I'm going to say it again for the people in the back. I am against tears. However, I'm against this resolution simply because this is not the arena for it. I understand that many people have spoken before me and said those things, but they left out a couple of key notes that I think that people need to be educated on before we take this to a vote, right? So let me read something to you. Out of our Constitution as of right now, because, and no disrespect to the brother that came from 869, but this is not in our Constitution that we accept tears. Under Article 2, which is under objects, right? Section 1, to improve working conditions, create a uniform system of shorter hours, higher wages, health care and pensions, to maintain and protect the interests of workers under the jurisdiction of this international union. This addresses the issue everyone is having about uniform wages and benefits and etc., right? So back in 2008, 2009, when they opened that contract for Benz Chrysler, which is now Stellantis, had that contract never been opened, I wouldn't be standing here today. And I'm gonna say, Local 7 gets over 40 votes, right? We have over 5,000 members and we get 7 delegates, and I am the only delegate that was hired after the bankruptcy, which considered me a tier 2. So that's really saying something. I'm the first person to hire after 2010 that is a top 4 officer of my local. So I'm not 4 tiers, but people need to understand. We just heard Sister Debbie Dingle talk about we went from 40% of manufacturing semiconductor chips in the United States to 12. This is an issue bigger than us, right? Lawmakers have created issues to make jobs go away. So what happens when a company is in dire crisis? And the only way that we can get a contract is if we do take the lower wages at that time. We're not saying we're going to stay at that wage because I no longer make $14.65. I make $33.36. The word contract at least 12 times. This is not the arena for a contract. This is the arena where we discuss our morals, our core values, and how we govern ourselves. This is not about a contract right now. Now in my facility, out of those 5,000 members, over 70% of those members came in after 2010 just like I am. So we have a fight on our hands. But what happens if this goes into our Constitution and we go to the bargaining table next year and they walk away because they figure we're not bargaining in good faith? We're not giving them an opportunity. And more importantly, that resolution says that IEB gets the opportunity to reject the proposal. Now, anybody who ever had a lawyer, even if that lawyer thinks that decision from the judge or the jury is BS, they are obligated to bring it to you and let you decide if that's something that you want, rather than them making that decision for you. So the only thing that I'm urging you all to do is not to turn it down because you want tears, but turn it down so that it is put in the right arena, which is not today. Thank you.
Moving on to Region 1D, anyone to speak in favor? We have a point of information, sorry.
Good afternoon, Lee Diaz, Local 2110, Region 9A. I have a point of information on the handout that we were given. In addition to the article as written in the lower right-hand corner, I see handwritten information. It says refer to CBC and what appears to be stay with this underlined. My point of information is who wrote this? What does it mean to communicate?
So as I stated earlier, as to who wrote it, I don't know, but it was to be referred to the collective bargaining convention.
Point of information, who wrote it, and what does it mean to communicate to the delegates?
I'm sorry, what do you mean communicate to the, I mean, exactly what it says it was referred to?
I would like to know why it was written and if it was meant to mean that the International Executive Board would like delegates to argue that this should be moved to the CBC rather than debated here as a constitutional amendment. Because that is a place for a commentary and a direct instruction rather than a point of clarification to be debated by people on the floor, which is what we're here to do.
you'll bear with me, I'm gonna try to make it short. Everybody in 862 will laugh at me. So, as the committee, we looked at resolutions, right? So every single resolution that was submitted across all the levels, every single one, we had to review. So we had policy resolutions, which you'll see in the proposed resolutions, and every single line item, so in this case, every single 0339, we had to look at that and find out where that policy fit. And not only did it fit, that resolution fit, submitted, it fit many of the proposed resolutions. So Ms. Sherry, Sister Baker, what she has a sheet showing every place it touches, because we want to be able to get up right now and say, you wrote this proposal, it was submitted, it's here, and now we see it, these different policy resolutions. In this case, this resolution, when we went through all of them, we had to look at all of them, trust me, we're in our third week. That resolution, we said, hey, this is something that's not our job in the resolutions committee as we see fit. So we asked for it to be sent over to be looked at by Constitution. It's a collective bargaining issue, not that we didn't take it away. So one of the most important things to think about is, as you may have already reviewed, there's a lot of delegates who have, in the submitted proposed resolution book, these are all scattered throughout. So there's many places already that talks about workers' disparity and about getting back what we need and the fight that we're going to go and get, the fight that we're going to do. But it's just kind of separation. I don't want to say church or state because that'd be wrong, but it's a place for this and a place for that. So the place that we felt was, for it to be reviewed, was over at the Constitution Committee, based upon it falls under collective bargaining, and that was the thought process to that. I didn't handwrite that. That was wrote by the staff that took it over from our convention, our Constitution resolution room that we met in Southfield, about 10 feet across the hall, from the Constitution to their room. And that was just a note saying, hey, we referred it over. But it has no bearing on officialness. It was just a note here for doing, so we reminded ourselves. Does that make sense? No.
Thank you for providing that clarification on how it was written on the document and the context with which it was intended. I raise a point of order to communicate objection to the procedure. I take the referral to the CBC, to the Constitutional Bargaining Committee, to be a position taken in a debate that should happen here on the floor rather than decided by someone other than the constitutional delegates. And for that reason, I make a point of order to say that I object to this procedure. It is something to be debated, not decided beforehand. Thank you for your time.
So, the Constitutional Committee referred it to the collective bargaining convention, for the convention. You all, with your votes, pulled it out of committee, and that's what we're doing now, is debating it. Am I missing? So again, we are doing just that. We pulled it out of committee to debate it. So someone called for the motion, so if they can take Michael Ward, I apologize.
Terry Sykes, President, Local 777. Motion to end the debate. Call for a vote.
Okay, so there's been questions been called to end debate. All those in favor? Opposed? Let's do a show of hands. All those in favor of closing debate, raise your hands. Opposed? The ayes have it to end debate. Now, we'll vote on the question, should Article 19 be amended as proposed? So the question, should Article 19 be amended as proposed? All those in favor? Okay, point of order, Region 4. Mike 2.
convention states that no motion or resolution shall be voted upon until the mover or introducer has had an opportunity to speak on the motion or resolution if he or she so desires. We should ask the mover if he or she would like to speak on this motion.
So Bill, would you like to speak on the motion? Bill Parker, Region 1.
Thank you very much, Sister Estrada. Let me thank you for your years of service to our youth. I rise on this because the question of tiers has so decimated our union. It has undermined our ability to get unity within our ranks. It has undermined our ability to project ourselves in a positive manner for organizing. The question of tiers has been a disaster for us. And we can just throw it all out to the individual bargaining committees, but I don't think that's right. Look, at one time in our industry, there were jobs that were designated for people of color, or there were jobs that were designated for women. They received less money, and this union took a stand against them and fought to bring everyone up to the same pay. Because that's the kind of principle that we believe in. And we believe in the principle of equal pay for equal work. It's not right that auto workers today or in our other sectors, that people work side by side and get different compensation for it. Different compensation now, different compensation post-employment. We have to take a strong stand on this as a union. This is a life and death question for this union. And we already have language in Article 19, Section 6. The International Executive Board shall protect all local unions who have succeeded in establishing higher wages and favorable conditions and have superior agreements so that no infringement by local unions with inferior agreements in workplaces doing similar work may be committed against the local union with advanced agreements. And that's in here because we recognize we cannot allow locals to bid against each other. That we will all go down if we allow a race to the bottom. The question of tiers is very much the same thing. Our principle is equal pay for equal work. And this amendment seeks to put that concept into our Constitution, seeks to put into our Constitution a commitment that we will no longer accept tiers as a basis for future collective bargaining. We'll find other ways to reach agreement with management. I have no doubt about that. But we won't do it by dividing our own members or mortgaging future members who we haven't even met with. This resolution was written carefully to be firm on the question of future contracts and to give direction on current contracts. Doesn't say every contract has to eliminate tiers today or tomorrow. It says that we need to move in that direction by bringing up the lower compensated workers up to the highest levels. So people are throwing up straw men, straw women. That's not what this is about. This is about, do we put into our Constitution a principle that I believe every person in this room holds to, and that is equal pay for equal work.
I believe that we should put that in the Constitution. I believe we should eliminate tiers, and it is so destructive to our union. I believe this body today should vote to put that policy into our Constitution. Thank you very much.